Today we learn everything about cloning a JavaScript object. But before we get into it, if you are new to our channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Pranav and I run this channel with my partner Kritika, and we are the immigrant programmers. And yes, as the name of the channel suggests, we are immigrants in Canada. We came from India about 3 years ago. Both of us have been working as web developers in Canada for the last 3 years, and all we want to do is impart our knowledge upon the internet so that maybe others can benefit from what we know. Before I actually tell you how to clone a JavaScript object, I need to explain you why I'm making this video in the first place. JavaScript object and arrays are not same as primitive data types like integers or strings. For example, when you create an integer, its value cannot be changed, at least in the memory. However, arrays and objects in JavaScript are mutable, and therefore they are passed by references and not by value, and that is what creates the whole confusion around these objects. Consider the following example and then you will understand better. Let's say you have a string and the value of that string is dot. Now if you assign that string value to another variable and then update the new variable, for example in this case we are updating the var2 with the value hi, in the end what do you think the output will be? The var1 still contains dog and var2 contains hi. Obviously this looks pretty easy and you know how this works in almost all the programming languages. However, when we go to an object, the things will change, all the rules will change in one split second. Let's see how it goes. Let's say I create an object with two keys A and B, and the values are 1 and 2 respectively. Now let's say we try to copy this object by just assigning the value to another object, and object2.b is equal to 4 now, because we just want to update the object 2, right? We don't want to update object 1. However, now if I print these values, you will see that both object 1 and object 2 are updated, but we just wanted to update object 2. Now here is why there's so much confusion around JavaScript objects and arrays and how to properly clone them. Now as I told you before, that JavaScript objects are passed by reference and not by value. Hence, therefore, when you think you're updating object 2, you're actually updating object 1 as well. Now let's see two ways how you can properly clone a JavaScript object without having this problem. Way number 1, there's a utility method called Object.assign in which the first parameter is an empty object, usually it's an empty object, and the second parameter is the object that you actually want to clone in the first place. Now this method will return you an object with the same values, but this won't refer to the same object 1 in this case. So now if you update the value of B to 6 or 4, this will still remain, the object 1 will still remain intact, and just the second object will be updated. But this is not my favorite method. My favorite way to do this is using the spread operator. And the main reason is that it has fewer lines of code, fewer words of code actually, and because I'm a lazy programmer, I prefer the spread operator. However, in performance or anything else, they are pretty much the same. We can do the same thing. We can use object 1 equal to A and B, and the values will be 1 and 2 respectively. And in object 2, we'll use the spread operator to basically clone the values, not by reference, by value. And if we update object 2 now, object 1 is still intact, as you can see here, and object 2 has been updated, and that is perfect. But before you go, there's one thing that you don't know yet, that these two methods work flawlessly when you have basic objects. But if you have nested objects, now you're in trouble. And the reason is that both of them do shallow cloning. Now, what do we mean by shallow cloning? Shallow cloning basically means that this method will work well as long as you don't have objects inside your objects. Because if you have those, the nested objects or the second level object will still be passed by reference, and that is a problem again. Because obviously if you update object1.obj2.b equals 4, now you have actually updated obj2 in both the cases. This is so confusing, right? Well, wait a minute, I'll explain you how to handle this problem as well. You usually don't have nested objects, however, you might have, and if you have them, it's better to know the way to properly clone them. All you need to do is convert your object into a string using JSON.stringify, and in the end, convert that string again into a JSON object. I know this sounds crazy, but yes, it does work properly. So as an example, if I say object1.b.c is equal to 4, well, object 1 is still okay if I clone it into another object, as you can see in the example here. Now you have to understand that how this works, because that's more important. Now in this case, you are actually serializing and then deserializing your whole object. And because of that reason, you are not passing by reference anymore, you're actually creating a new object into a different part of your memory. Now you must know that serializing and deserializing of large JavaScript objects can be a very intensive work to do for your CPU. Basically, I mean, it can significantly affect your performance. So if you know that you're going to have a large or huge JavaScript object, I won't recommend this method. You can obviously make your own recursive methods to do that, and it will be much more efficient. Or you can use some external cool JavaScript libraries that will do all the heavy processing for you, and they will do it in the most efficient way possible. So if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button while you're at it, and hit the bell icon as well. It's basically free of cost for you, and it will give us a lot of motivation. Until next time.